Hey guys, Veebat here with another V Plays, and this is the BVP 203. Now, they are offering this for sale, and I feel kind of duty bound to show you my perspective on how this aircraft flies, so that way you can try and make an informed decision as to whether or not you want to pick it up for the current price point. I've always said this, and I will continue to say this: the best premium is a free premium, so go and try and get the Vampire before you decide that you're going to obligate a bunch of funds to this thing right here. But with that said, this is still a solid Tier 8 heavy plane. It has two 30s, which are the Mark 103s, higher velocity, longer range than your Mark 108s. It also has two 15mm cannons, which might as well be 20s for all intents and purposes, and then it has two 13mm machine guns as well as a dual 13mm machine gun tail gunner. This is a dual combination engine setup, which means it has props and you can kind of see the burst of the jet engines in the back. We are going up against another premium German heavy. It's going to be an ME-262 player. This is a Tier 9 battle, as you can see with this FJ1 in front of me. Well, at least it used to be. Haha. And we have a ground attacker, an IL-40, and the enemy team has a... what is it? It's a Tier 9 bomber. I can't remember which one it is offhand, but we'll see it pop up, I'm sure. So we are competing against these guys when it comes to aircraft choices, almost even keeled for the most part. Obviously, I got myself into a bad spot right from the get-go there. Went up against the Specialized 262 and underestimated his setup. From everything I can tell, based off of what I'm seeing on his flying profile, by the way, there's our ally, that he's probably running some form of a maneuverability combination, I believe, based on the fact that he's kind of sticking with me fairly well, and on top of that, I'm able to keep up with him. Now, some of that is by virtue of this being a complete speed build for me. I think that one of the major strengths of this aircraft is going to be its overall velocity, and we've really emphasized that by giving it polished skin, uprated engine, as well as the turbines. So this thing really does have a lot of oomph in it. As you can see, getting up to nearly 560 miles per hour here, so we're doing pretty good for ourselves. I'm trying to hard counter the 262 here, but I am having a heck of a time. We must have got some type of a crit on him there, as you could tell by the sound. But I'm really just trying to counter him right now. If I can counter the other player in a Specialized 262, because I know he's going to be looking for me, then we'll be in a much better situation. There's those Mark 103s hitting at range, so they are very powerful and can be very helpful. You do have the option of kind of sniping and also just gunning down with the overall firepower. This feels a lot like flying an ME-410 just at Tier 8. So if you like the 410, then this also might be right up your alley as well. I do think the price point, it's a fair price point for the basic setup. But once you start adding the special camouflage, which really just helps with crew experience, and you start adding they start throwing gold at you and stuff like that, and a 5 skill point pilot, I don't know whether or not that's actually worth it. That feels like it might be a bit excessive. But if you want an aircraft that's kind of like an exclusive that was only available for those that completed a special set of missions, so you may see it all the time, but you're like, man, I really want one. That might be tempting you, but if it's going to be your first premium Tier 8, this might not be the best choice. There are other options out there that are going to be much more versatile and probably more fun to play depending on your play style. Boom and Zoom isn't for everybody, and while I may enjoy it, this isn't necessarily my primary for doing that either. In fact, I think this is the first time I've flown this plane in maybe, I don't know, like 3 months? I just took it out to show you guys what it can do. Because there's other things I can fly. Again, some more enjoyable aircraft. I also think the wings look a little hokey. They're very flat and square, and the outer edge of the wings past the engines are different than the inner set, so it almost looks like somebody like glued together a bunch of sheets of like cardboard or particle board to make this plane so square and boxy. But the gun placement is awesome, really good for being able to get a lot of guns on target if you can manage actually hitting something. Maybe a full speed build isn't entirely necessary on this either. There might be an opportunity here for me to maybe throw on a lightweight wing frame, which will help make it a little bit more maneuverable. Because even at this is out a tier 9 battle, we're able to maintain some pretty good speed against the adversaries. Looks like we lost this garrison. I was hoping to maybe help defend it. My ally keeps calling to go to the airfield, and while the airfield is a viable position to go after, not when I'm trying to contend with this 262. So I was trying to find another way to do this. I am going to get myself into a spiral battle here, so I'm essentially slowing down the aircraft, and I'm letting this guy kind of wrap around me here so that way he can't get his guns on target, because a 262 is also really bad at turning. And I managed to get him all turned around that he didn't know what he was doing and ended up crashing into the ground. But he did straighten me out for all these bots that just respawn, and even though I'm trying to maneuver and use my speed, this 410 defense aircraft must be super bot and just kicked my butt. So we'll have to come back and try again. But in the meantime, my allies managed to pick up both of their garrisons and the airfield. By no means am I the one that's carrying this battle, so this is probably a much better example of what you can kind of expect, because it's an average battle. This is not spectacular, it's just a normal battle for me. And yes, usually I show you guys my better battles because those are the ones that are most interesting, right? We want to show off our best stuff, so hopefully you understand that. So this is me heading back into the middle. We're just about at squall line. I'm kind of keeping my eye out. I know the 262 is probably going to be heading right for the center, so I'm a little bit offset. I'm using the cloud cover as well to kind of lower my possibility of being spotted. I see the 262. I'm trying to designate him, and I'm having issues getting a reticle on him, and now I've indicated him. I'm hopefully going to get some allies on him, but now he is not paying attention to me. He's looking at other stuff. Now he knows I'm here, but at this point, it's too late, buddy. I got you. Now he's gone entirely. He's not going to be on the battlefield anymore. Thought I might be able to get the drop on that J7W1, but he saw me, so I'm just going to power through. No reason to try and turn with him. I thought the enemy heavy was going to be flying over here, but I missed it in the battle notes here that we actually took out that 262, one of the air defense fighters did. So I'm heading up to this altitude, not realizing he's dead until just about now, but I do know that the bomber is over here because you can kind of see the ghost of it flashing down here to the south. So we're going to come in on this target. I'm actually going to slow down, pump the brakes a little bit so I can vector into his tail, because this is a good reason to use brakes, so we can keep the guns on longer. Good amount of firepower to be able to take out that 288C fairly quickly. Now, it looks like the enemy planes are all up to the north at this garrison, going after our allied specialized ground attacker. So we're going to give this a shot. We've got a P-51H and an FJ-1 over here. There's the FJ-1 making the hard dive onto the target. It's hard to gauge his speed, so the leads probably needs to be way more than what I got going on here. I had a few kind of hits from the machine guns, and since I nicked him, I get credit for that kill because he just ran into the blimps. So that's two targets I supposedly killed by letting them kill themselves. And by knocking out this P-51H, we have now killed all the enemy aircraft, and game is over early. So good game to you guys, 10,000 points. Pretty solid battle, average result. So let's go ahead and get to the end game results screen, and I'll blather on about this aircraft some more. Alright, so not the best battle, not the worst battle. If anything, I'd like to think that since the 262 and I were heavily going after one another, that essentially took the specialization that I had and negated it because he was also in a specialized aircraft. 262, also a boom and zoom aircraft, fast. It has the Mark 108 cannons, so they're a little bit more difficult to get a handle on, but if he was using air-to-air rockets, he could have really crushed me on a couple of those head-ons we had. We do have a nice amount of damage coming out of this thing. We've got 2 Mark 103s, we've got 2 15mm cannons, and we've got 2 13mm machine guns. So we've got a nice mix, and they're also all centrally mounted in the nose. So in a lot of ways, this really is just a Tier VIII version of an ME 410. It's just that the 30s are way better because they have a much better range and a much better shell velocity, which means that they're much easier to get a solid shot to land, and then as you close distance, you're just getting more overlapping fire from the other accompanying guns. So even though it has a bit of a mixed loadout, it tends to play out fairly well. It is a very fast aircraft. It gets most of its strength from the fact that it has a propeller and jet engine combination here, and we've also specialized the aircraft in its build to really emphasize those strengths and take it to the next level. Running a premium account, we were able to bring in 230,000 credits, and we were only number 2 on the team. Most of the work was coming from our Tier 9 counterpart here, but again, we were lower tiered and we managed to do fairly well despite this. So all in all, is this worth the $55 to $70 that they're offering for this aircraft? It's up to you. I mean, really it is. It always is, right? That's the answer, is it's your decision. I'm just showing you the gameplay. You kind of make up your own mind, but there are other aircraft you can pick up to get the same type of feel as this thing. Like there's the Do 335 pops up every so often. It has less firepower, but it sacrifices that firepower in order to give it some bombs that have a really good reload time. There's also going to be the ME-109TL, which it's considered a multi-role, but it's got jet engines, so it behaves a lot more like a 262 Premium, if you would. This is relatively unique, though, with the dual thrust combination. It does have a tail gunner position, so you can train up a tail gunner. Currently, I am running my BVP 215 crew in here, which is my Tier 10 multi-role, which also has a tail gunner. Very similar type of setup with a tail gunner as well, so that does complement it. With that said, though, what are you even getting for the money? For the $55 package, sure, you're able to pick up this thing the same price you could get any other Tier A Premium Heavy for. Cool. And you're getting a hangar slot and a pilot with 100% trained. But as you go up in price, you're getting camouflage. They're throwing some gold at you, and they're also throwing some containers at you as well. And then for the $70 price point, you're also going to get a 5 skill point pilot. But I feel like that's inconsequential. Do you really need a 5 skill point pilot? Like, that's a night of flying. And to be honest, this is a crew trainer. You just heard me say I put my BVP 215 crew in here. You can see clearly on the right hand side over here as I flip between the two that this crew has not been retrained for the 203. You don't need to retrain crews to put them in a premium aircraft. In fact, I believe that you're just wasting experience that you can be sending to this crew or another crew in order to have another pilot that sits in this aircraft that can't be used in any others. So do what I'm doing here, and you don't need the extra 5 skill point pilot. Like, you'll be building up points towards an already developed pilot. It's just not worth the time. The only time I've ever seen a pilot worth like spending the extra money for, if you can justify it, was the time I got the XF-85, and it came with a 9 skill point pilot. Now, it gets exponentially more difficult to get a higher skill point pilot, but in that case, like a 9 skill point pilot for the price point of also getting that Tier 9, the only Tier 9 premium aircraft in the game, that made way more sense than what the $70 price point is for this. Granted, you get gold and you get containers, so you can roll the dice and see if you get something cool, but not for the 5-point pilot. That should not be your decision point. Anyways, I've given you the information. You guys can do with it as you would. You saw an average gameplay battle here. You will eventually specialize yours as well because it's premium, so if you're grinding credits like everybody else is, it's going to help you get there. And you can train up crews if you're working down the German line. So There are other options that might be better, but if you really got a hankering to get an aircraft that used to be very exclusive to the people that completed the missions, then that's your prerogative. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, hope you can make an informed decision, and as always, I will catch you on the next one.
I'm marching till it's over.